Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. If you're new to the channel, welcome to you too. We're looking forward to keeping you around and talking about a lot of different topics. We cover everything pretty much from dating and personal relationships to a lot of the craziness that's going on in our society and just in our culture and around the world at many different points. But without too much further ado, I'm going to dive right into today's topic, which is the new scam: child support for children that aren't even yours. This is something that I've come across multiple times over the last few years, mostly stories from other people, once or twice from people that I actually was personally acquainted with, where what essentially is happening with our legal system is they're constantly trying to find ways to. I know this may sound harsh to some of the women listening here, but they are always constantly trying to find ways to saddle men with additional responsibilities based upon the failure to recognize responsibility from women. This isn't a general projection across the board with all women. I know there's probably quite a few out there that have never attempted to get men to pay child support on children that are not their own. In fact, quite a few of you might find this attitude and this approach absolutely disgusting. I'm glad if you do, because we all need to be able to address this and understand it and identify it and be able to articulate what is going wrong with this very, very clearly, because our legal system has gone, for lack of better words, batshit insane. So let's get down to it. I was actually reading a story the other day. A guy in one of the northwestern states. I'm not going to try to specify with too many details here, but he was basically caught in a situation where he had been paying child support on a child that he believed was his. Eventually, over the course of several years, realized that the woman that he was involved with, he wasn't married to her, they were just living together, but it was essentially being treated like a common law marriage. Uh, the two children that he was paying for were not his. He eventually found this out by being able to get a paternity test done and identified that the kids belonged to somebody else, and that his wife had pretty much been lying to him the whole time. Now, you might be able to present the argument of, how did she know? Well, she definitely knew she was sleeping with other people. She definitely knew she was committing adultery and cheating on him and manipulating the entire situation. And then, there's a guy running around out there who's not paying for his own children, not even aware of the situation. I don't feel sorry for him at all. He shouldn't have been there touching that, not even in the slightest. But for the guy that got wrapped up in all of this, most of the legal system in most every state, and probably in a lot of Western cultures, provinces, townships, you name it, they're all shifting towards a direction of, well, I guess she got you, so you're going to be stuck paying for the rest of their lives up to the point of 18 and maybe even further. All because we need to do this to maintain stability for the child. Although I can see a slight amount of reason in that, the very fact that the individual that engaged in the fraud, the hoax, and perpetrating this deception on the person they're in a relationship with, which is the vilest form of betrayal, to do this to somebody, the children as well. I mean, imagine their sense of identity finding out that the man that they always thought was their father was in fact not their father, not ever. That the mother is a liar and a manipulator, and that some man out there is actually the one that gave the DNA that created them. And how could their mother treat their father this way? And it's going to ultimately shape how those children even see the father in the future. There's that effect. It's going to shape how the children see their mother in the future, and whether or not they think that being a con artist and a liar, a cheater and a manipulator is something that's acceptable in society, or something that you should even aspire to. But really, when it comes down to it, we're going to focus on the mental health of the guys that get caught in this. They're in a situation where they're now being forced to pay for something, being trapped, wrapped up in this whole thing, knowing the whole time as it's happening that they've been completely duped, that their marriage is a sham because their wife slept with somebody else and had children with them and betrayed them in the worst way possible. And they can't get any separation from it, not really. not really any clarity without going through the pains of having a divorce that will likely screw them over, even though it's abundantly clear that they cheated. As somebody who's been through a situation like that, where I knew my ex from my marriage was unfaithful, I was the one who initiated the divorce and everything. And if I had to, I would do it all over again. I will still say this: it was absolutely painful. The damage it did across the board, irreversible in many ways, and the legal system was absolutely no help. And you have to watch your back. You have to, because their expectations in the legal system are so completely out of touch with reality, so completely unrealistic, and leaning towards the narrative that we've been in some sort of patriarchy indefinitely for a long period of time, and all men are getting together in secret meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday nights instead of bowling or doing something else. We're all getting together trying to figure out how we can oppress women, and that's literally what a lot of modern day feminism literally, that's exactly what they believe. I've heard women espouse and put forth this narrative all over the place, which is just mind boggling to me, that they actually think that we're worried they're going to take up guns and take over the country. So, back to the horror of this situation. You're now in a situation where you can't escape. You're paying for children that you want to love and you want to be supportive of, but every single time you look at them, you know that they came from another man. So even in your best graces, even in your most honest, loving, and merciful state, there's always going to be that in the back of your mind. And now you've got permanent damage between you and the person you were married to, because they probably deceived you for a very long time in some cases. Years, many, in fact, maybe many years. Just your trust and ability to be able to, let's say you end up getting the determination and the willingness to move on from that situation, get divorced, attempt to find somebody else. The ghost of that will always be haunting you. You'll always be looking over your shoulder, wondering how in the world you're going to get past that. And we talked about this, how in a prior video, about past relationships affecting how we view things in the future. And this is a major, major case of that. Moving on from it, even if you get to a point where you get divorced and get free, the amount of mental fortitude that it's going to take to be able to ever trust anybody again, or even just have a healthy sense of who you are in your own self, is going to be incredibly difficult. You're going to wake up every morning knowing about it. You're going to wake up every morning thinking about that to some degree. Even as much as you can put it out of your mind, you're never going to get past it. There will be resentment that you might never completely get over. And that is just something that's mind-blowing to me. But then there's other situations. I'm going to touch on the second point, which, believe it or not, is actually even more ridiculous than the one I just brought up, which is in certain states where there are men who actually start to date, potentially even live with or get into a common law relationship with, like a common law marriage. And even if you've just been dating and been around this person's children, and we're talking about men towards women, even if you've been dating and just been around their children for a long enough period of time, that woman can go in to a courtroom and say, look, he wants to break up with me, and he's had a lot of effect on the children's lives, and he's been driving them to their ballet or to their different sports events that they're involved with, or different school activities or other stuff like that. And I need help with this. And he's been involved to a certain degree. Can you make him do this? And we're talking about somebody that these are not your biological children. You might not have even really been living with them. You might have been staying over here and there. And you've had situations where you've been trying to be helpful and supportive and tried to be involved. And now the court is sitting there with you in front of it. She's over on the other side there, basically saying to them, well, he's trying to break up with me. Can you make him pay child support for these children that are not his, simply because it's for the best interest of the child to do this? And in some cases, ladies and gentlemen, the courts are now saying, yes, we will. You will now have to pay for those kids. Good luck trying to get out of that. Good luck trying to reverse that. There are men that are self-deleting over this. I've read articles about this where men that encountered this, who expressed what was going on to their families and friends, expressed what they were going through. They tried to go to counseling. They tried to seek ways to be able to deal with this. They regretted to the very end getting involved with a single mother who then turned around and sprung this on them. They ended up having no way out. They were financially ruined by it. They couldn't escape it. They couldn't get, I mean, they would have had to basically become a fugitive, be on the run, and go to another country. And that was their only chance of ever reclaiming their life. And that is what our society is. This is the level of insanity our society is going to. The road that we're going down is that we're leaning so heavily on trying to entrap people into financial stuff that they can't escape. I mean, if you think about it, that's literally what our government is doing to us. We're in a situation where we can't change things very easily in Congress. We can try and vote people out, but they can have never ending terms. We're in a situation where we can't really change or flip anything around, and we're entrapped in a way to where it would almost take violence to begin to change things. Well, in this situation, very similarly, we are entrapping men that come into it with good intentions, and now they're stuck. They get children that are attached to them that they were trying to help, and then they began to realize that for whatever reason, oftentimes very toxic reasons, they have to break things off from the mother that they had started to date. And now you're completely screwed over. And we're not even talking about, as I mentioned in one of the other videos that's already been released, false allegations, false accusations. Let's say she gets you in there and now you're paying for children that aren't yours in a situation that you were never very heavily involved in. You just tried to help. And now she decides, I want another man involved. I got to find a way to get you out. Somebody in the legal system suggest, put the thought into my mind of, well, are you sure he didn't do something inappropriate? Maybe you should just suggest that, And now the accusations, the allegations start to come forward, and now you're paying for children that aren't yours. You can't really have any input into their lives. You can't really see them. Some other guy is coming in there, and she's over there telling him how evil you are, how terrible you are, how toxic you are, and giving the whole spin. Men, if you ever end up on the back end of a situation like that and you see any of this playing out, don't just run. Get every person that you possibly can to be aware of this situation, and all of you collectively run from this individual. People like this shouldn't be allowed to even exist in our society. They should be absolutely ostracized for what they've done, to the point to where such a strong example is made that they wouldn't even dream of crossing that line again. And I'm saying all of this because our legal system is way too far gone to ever do anything about this. They're never going to. We're going to have to do something about it until the insane people that are getting into power no longer have the influence they have to create these insane scenarios that we are talking about right here. That this should be something, it's so absolutely insane, it's almost too hard to believe to even put into a film. Like, somebody would watch it and they'd be like, yeah, but that would never happen. And I'm like, nah. Unfortunately, this is very much a real story. This is unfortunately not fiction, and it has cost people their livelihood, their mental health, and in some cases, their lives. So I know it's a very serious subject, but it's something that we definitely need to be talking about. As always, I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your comments. I enjoy reading them, and it's very enlightening, and it helps wake up other people that are reading the comments as well as to what's going on out there. Make sure to like, subscribe. If you like this type of content, share it with other people. Make sure to hit the notification bell. And I'll be back at you again with more videos coming up soon. So I hope you all have an amazing day, and I look forward to talking to you again.